My friend Bannon's podcast. Welcome everyone to my brand new podcast, My Friend Bannon. This episode is called My Friend Annabelle, the story of Lenny Joe Willardson, featuring my friend Nat Curtis.
Hey.
Now, originally, I was going to do this podcast episode on my own, but I wanted to bring in someone who I feel like would be really personable throughout this episode and be able to kind of just authentically ask questions, interrupt, and make it a better experience for the audience members. So we're just going to kind of jump on into it. So thank you, Nat, for being willing to take time out of your day today and come talk to me about this fun story. And this is a story that I've been wanting to tell on a podcast for about 3 years now. I've been wanting to start this podcast for a while. I've had this equipment for a while, but long story short, it's just taken me a while to get it started. But I'm finally doing it. So
it's going to be perfection now because you've been building up.
Exactly. I think my problem was that this story means so much to me because it was such a huge thing that happened to me back in college that I just wanted this to be perfect, but I realized I just want it to be authentic. Actually, I just want it to be raw, and I just want to tell this story. So instead of me having to just repeat this story so many times because people hear it through the grapevine and then they want to know the whole story, I can just send them to this podcast. So this is going to be great. I really have probably told this story at least 90 times.
Is this your best story that you have?
This is my best story I have. And this is one of the stories that I include in my 2 Truths and a Lie that makes it my 2 Truths and a Lie so incredible, but also it makes me have to tell the story a lot when I do my 2 Truths and a Lie.
It's probably a good story, so you want to be telling all the time.
It is, but it takes me a while to tell. There's a lot of details with it, so we're just going to jump into it.
Okay, I'm ready.
So, deep breath. Traumatic experience. No, I'm just kidding. This story all takes place August of 2019. Okay. So I had just gotten back home from the Dominican Republic. I was doing an internship over there for 3 months, just through Utah State.
How old are you at this point?
I'm going into my senior year, so 23.
Okay.
I think 24 maybe.
Okay.
I think I was 23 going on 24 in September.
Got it.
So
your prefrontal cortex is not fully developed
yet.
Yeah.
And that is big.
Does that play
that plays into this for sure. Okay.
I've never heard this story, for the record. This is Bannon's best story and I've never heard it.
Yes.
And that's why I'm here, so you tell it to me.
A big reason why I chose Nat to come on. So you're going to hear it for the first time as well as the audience members, so this will be good. So the first week right before school starts up at Utah State, it's called Weeks of Welcome. And so basically every single day, there are so many events going on, like so much free food. You don't have to go grocery shopping for the whole week because you just get fed on campus, and there's just more than enough events going on. You're overwhelmed, honestly. But that's what makes it fun is you don't have homework yet. You don't have school yet. They just want you to just kind of jump back into the semester, just like excited about things, right? So I, being me, am constantly just busy, right? Just filling myself with social things. And we had what's called Greek slip and slide. So that was happening on one of the days of Weeks of Welcome.
Were you in a fraternity or no?
I was,
You were? Okay.
Yeah. So that was one of our events. So each day, like a different committee or a different school organization does things. And so that Thursday was our Greek one. So we do it each year. It's an annual thing called the Greek slip and slide.
Okay.
Really fun. We go up to Old Main, which is right on campus. It's just this big hill. Have you been to Utah State before? Okay.
Yeah,
so Old Main, big hill. Also a disastrous hill. If you're like me, you'll go sledding on it one time in the winter and you'll break your ankle and have to get ankle surgery. Yeah. It was bad. It was funny because when I ran track, our coaches, all the sports coaches were like, do not go sledding on Old Main Hill.
Yeah,
like
but you thought you
something
knew better.
that'll happen.
Yeah.
I did. I really did. And what happened? One time I went, freaking broke
one
my
run
ankle.
and broke an ankle because it's so huge, because it's so steep. Because why?
Well, we were in a toboggan, so that didn't help. So we were going fast, and our roommates pushed us down. It was me and Nick, and I was behind him, and so I couldn't get out. And we were going to run into a tree, which people have literally died on that hill running into trees and stuff. And so, anyways, long story short, broke my ankle, but it's a fun place to slip and slide.
Okay.
So me and Swan is an important character of this story. He's one of my best friends my senior year. He was going to be a sophomore at the time, and we were busy doing something. I can't remember what we had that day, but we were pretty busy that day, but we wanted to go pass by the Greek slip and slide, be there for a quick couple slides and then leave.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. We went, you weren't allowed to slide more than one person at a time.
Okay.
But we're like, the rebellious. For sure. So we did, both of us at the same time, like grabbed onto his ankle or something, and we like just went down. Got in trouble, of course. Didn't really care. There was a Greek advisor named Kevin, and me and him have a love-hate relationship. Mostly love. But yeah, he's a funny guy, but he kicked us out. Yeah, he was like, don't do it again. And so of course we do it again because we're like, we're just going to leave anyways. So we did another 2-person slip and slide down, got in trouble, got kicked out, left. That night, Annabelle, who's basically the main character other than me in this story.
Okay.
We're changing her name, by the way. We're changing some names in this story because it's sensitive, very sensitive material. I was originally going to do this podcast featuring everyone that was involved in this and make this like a pretty dramatic thing. It's already a dramatic thing, but I just wanted to have everyone's input on it, but pretty much everyone refused because it's that serious? Kind of sensitive. And
do you still know Annabelle? You talked to her?
I'll get to that.
Ooh.
I'll get to that.
Okay.
So Annabelle is one of my best friends at this point.
Yeah.
She is in a sorority as well, and her roommates, we call them the Grover Hoes.
Okay, perfect.
They live at this apartment complex called Grover. And they're me and Swan and Jordo. Jordo's the other guy in this scenario. We're all the best friends. So there's the 4 Grover girls and then me, Swan, and Jordo.
Okay.
And so Annabelle texted me that night and she's like, hey, do you remember the girl at the Greek slip and slide who was standing next to me? And I was like, no, I remember vaguely after the first slide, I was walking back up to do the second slide and I saw Annabelle across the slip and slide.
Okay, so you noticed her.
I noticed her, okay. But there was so many people there and I waved at her and she waved back, but I didn't have the time to like go and interact or anything. Left right after that. So I was like, no, I didn't. And she's like, okay, well, because of your little stunt you pulled, my friend Lenny, she noticed you and she's like, oh my gosh, who's that? And I'm like, oh, like that makes a guy feel good, right? Like
sure. That's why you
someone
do
notices you for sure.
Yeah.
And so she's like, yeah, so she thought you were cute. And I was like, no way. That's one of my best friends. Like, do you want me to set it up? And so she was like, yeah, like set it up. And so I was like, hey, tell me more about this girl. And she basically just describes this girl, sends me some pictures of her. She's like this cute, like 5'2", olive skin, like just really cute girl, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm into it and I'm like, okay, like I'm super single right now, as always in college. And I was just ready. I feel like the earlier stages of college for me, I was just like Mr. Social, didn't care about, getting too involved in a relationship. But at this point I was like, yeah, I could I want that my senior year,
Yeah.
And so I was excited about it. And so she's like, okay, what are your plans this weekend? So this is all on a Thursday. So she's like, what's your plans on Saturday?
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, we're all going to Lake Bloomington. It's this like small little lake up in the mountains up technically Idaho, up in Bear Lake. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of like a Utah State tradition. Like tons of students go up there and we basically hammock. We have a big bonfire in the morning. We wake up and go to the lake and jump off the cliffs up there and go to the rope swing and stuff like that. There's even a glacier up there that you can slide down. Cool. It's a cool place. So we'd always go up there.
Sliding. That's a theme.
I guess so. I guess I do. So we always go up there that weekend every year. Yeah. Since I was a freshman, we had just always done it. I don't know if it was just like some students randomly decided to do it and just kind of became a thing, but it was a very popular thing. So I was not going to miss that, right?
No.
And she's like, dang it. Well, I was going to have you be Lenny's date on this little group date thing that we're doing, 4-wheeling up to Oneida, up in Idaho, to this rope swing up there. And I was like, dang it, that sounds like way fun too.
Yeah, that's fun.
So I was like, well, I'm not going to bail on my friends and stuff, but dang it, I can't go. And she's like, okay, well, how about this? I'm going to throw a game night at my house on Sunday. So then I'll invite both of you guys, and then you can just kind of more authentically meet her.
Perfect.
Natural. And just kind of go from there, and I can kind of step out.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I actually prefer that. That sounds great. Because you know how setups can be, like too much pressure.
Awkward,
and
pressure, weird. Yeah.
For sure. So that was the plan.
Okay.
Fast forward to Saturday. After we were done at the lake, the rope swing and stuff, we went to Bear Lake, and there's a big beach there on the north side, and a bunch of my friends went there afterwards. A lot of my fraternity brothers were there and stuff, so we just went there afterwards and just hanging out. And I get a text from Annabelle.
Okay.
And she's like, hey, I got a really important question for you. And I'm like, okay, what's up? And she's like, if a girl is missing a toe,
no.
If a girl's missing a toe, is that like a deal breaker for you?
Oh, is it? I don't know. I have to think about it.
Well, me being me, I'm like, I mean, I don't want to be mean, right?
Wait, but is it a deal breaker?
So here's what I said.
Okay.
I was like, I mean, if she can like function normally, she can like run and walk and stuff, like it's fine. Feet are already ugly. I don't care about that part of it.
Well, like my question is which toe?
It was her big toe. Yeah, she's like big toe. And I was like, I mean, I guess it's not as long as she can function normally, is basically what I said. But in my head, I'm also like, I don't know, like, ew, weird.
Do you know how she lost her toe?
So yeah, that's the next part.
We're getting there. Okay.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Okay.
So she's like, okay, because Lenny lost her toe today. And I was like, I thought she was joking.
That day?
That day, up at the rope swing up at Oneida.
You're kidding.
And I was like, you're joking. I thought she was joking because a lot of times Anna's really sarcastic and we like play little pranks on each other and stuff.
How do you lose a big toe?
So she was like, I'm being dead serious. I'm at the hospital with her right now. And I was like, okay, tell me everything. And so basically she's like, I didn't see it because my back was turned. But basically what happened was when Lenny went on the rope swing, somehow the rope got caught around her foot and like, yeah. And just like kind of snapped her toe right off.
I can't even visualize that.
Yeah. So her part of her foot broke, but also like it wrapped around her big toe enough to where half of her big toe just kind of like ripped off. So she's like, So Brody was there. Brody is Anna's cousin.
Okay.
Who's also Lenny's ex-boyfriend.
Okay.
Right. And that's how Lenny and Annabelle know each other.
Is through the boyfriend.
Is through the boyfriend.
Yeah.
And so they had broken up.
The boyfriend did it. He cut off her toe.
For sure. No. At this point, well, ex-boyfriend. At this point, they're not dating anymore, but they're really close because they had been through a lot together, but he cheated on her because he just went through a rough patch with a lot of different things.
There's so much going on. Okay.
There's a lot going on. But basically what is important in this story is they're really close, but they're also never getting back together because of that. He cheated on her. Right? Okay. But Annabelle was like, Brody, go into the water and get the toe because it's floating there, and you need to put it in your hydro flask because it's cold and there's ice in it, and we need to save the toe if we can, but it has to be in something cold. And so she's like, if there's any chance of saving this toe, you got to put it in your hydro flask. And she said he was just fighting her on it because he's like, I don't want to put a nasty toe in my hydro flask.
He's the worst.
He's a little bit the worst, yeah.
But you have not said one redeemable thing about him.
Well, he gets better.
Oh my gosh.
So he was like fighting on her, but he ended up doing that. So anyways, they're at this point at the hospital, and she's like, can you give her a blessing tonight? And I'm like, absolutely. Those that are listening, what that means in our religion, basically we give blessings to people who are sick or, people who need blessings of comfort and things like that. So this is a situation in which I would do that. I would exercise my priesthood. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'll do that. Just let me know like the place and time.
That's really sweet. They would ask you. That's very nice.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. And of course I'm more than willing. So fast forward a couple of hours, I get back home and I hadn't gotten an update. So I was like, hey, Annabelle, where am I going and when? And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's been crazy. They had to emergency transfer her down to Salt Lake. And she's at the University of Utah right now. Yeah, because what happened was, apparently she got a blood infection and it went to her kidney. And so her kidney started failing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And, so she's like, she's going septic. I didn't know what that meant at the time. Do you know what septic means?
Like vaguely. I watch Grey's Anatomy.
Fair. So did I. Basically it means your body's like failing.
Oh my gosh.
Just not good. Your body is just not doing good. And so she had this blood infection, went to the kidney's failing, probably going to need a kidney transplant.
Oh my gosh.
And so that
From
night,
a rope swing.
yeah. And so she's like, don't worry about the priesthood blessing. My dad, he lives down in Holiday. I'm going to have him do that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, good. And that night I see on Snapchat and Instagram that Annabelle had posted a picture of Lenny in the hospital gown, hospital bed in a hospital. And she's like, hey, this is one of my dearest friends. She's fighting for her life right now. Please keep her in your prayers.
And at this point, remind me, you've never met Lenny.
I haven't
yet. You
yet.
just saw her at the side. You give her a little wave.
For sure. Yeah. And I didn't really even see her. I just saw Anna and she was standing next to Anna.
Yeah.
But I was supposed to meet her that next day at the game night and stuff. I like potentially was going to go on that group date or whatever. Right. So this all happened in a matter of from Thursday to Saturday. So, crazy stuff.
Okay.
At this point, my family knows too, because I had told my family about how my friend Annabelle was going to like set me up with this really cute girl that I was interested in and stuff. Yeah. And I was like, guys, guess what happened to that girl that I was like,
she only has 9 toes.
yeah. And I was like, keep her in your purse because she's like literally not doing well. And my mom
Lenny, I'm so sorry.
my mom put her name in the hospital. Like it was this whole thing in the hospital, in the temple.
The temple. That's sweet.
I was like praying about her and stuff. So anyways, I get the update later. What ended up happening, it's crazy because this story just never gets like to its climax. Like it just keeps getting crazier.
Oh my gosh, okay.
So the year prior, Brody's brother, I don't remember his name, but Brody's brother was in a really bad car crash.
Brody is the ex-boyfriend.
The ex-boyfriend and the cousin of Annabelle.
Who said, I'm not putting your toe in my hydro flask.
Right. So this is where,
did he put the toe in?
He did.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's the right thing to do.
Right.
You can buy a new hydro flask. You can't buy a new toe.
Exactly. So this is where he redeems himself. So the year prior, his brother was in a really bad car crash.
Sad.
In which he was in a coma and then he needed a kidney transplant. And so him and his brothers, they had done a kidney test or whatever to see if theirs like matched. His didn't, but because of that, he knew what kidney type he had. So he goes into emergency surgery.
Shut up. To give her his kidney?
To give her his kidney.
No.
So now this girl has her ex-boyfriend's freaking kidney.
That is my worst nightmare.
Right? Like, at least they're still on good terms or whatever. But yeah,
what?
Crazy. So that happens. And
you know how like when people have breakups and it's really bad and you like throw away all their sweatshirts and everything?
Can't throw away the kidney. Yeah. Yeah, crazy. So yeah, that happened.
Gosh.
But I mean, cool of him to do that, right? Like really, really man of him to like just emergency surgery.
I feel like we passed over that like a little quickly. Lenny's in the hospital. Mm-hmm. He knows he's a match.
Yeah.
He goes under the knife.
Yep.
How do you go from I'm not putting your toe in my hydro flask to here's my kidney?
Yeah. I don't know. You must have had a really big change of heart. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So yeah, that happened. So then, she's like recovering in the hospital or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that next weekend, I'm at our first home football game where I end up meeting this girl named Riley who ends up becoming my girlfriend. We just like started going on dates after that and like just really hit it off and it was great.
You didn't want to wait for Lenny?
I mean, that was originally the plan, right? But then all this stuff happened, and then there was this other girl, and so
with her 9 toes.
Yeah, for sure. No, it was one of those situations where it just happened so authentically with Riley, and it was like really cool. It was one of those things where you're like, oh, thank heavens I don't have to go on a dating app. Like it's just happened. Yeah. Literally at a football game. Crazy.
No, that's fun. So
we start kind of going on dates and stuff, really hit it off. All the meanwhile, I'm getting updates from Annabelle and she'll be like, her parents are serving missions as mission presidents in Costa Rica.
Okay.
And so she's like, her dad wasn't able to come back, but her mom came back for a while. Now she's back in Costa Rica.
Well, that's nuts.
All of her brothers are out of state, but her aunt lives in Logan. That's where she's living now. So basically this girl transferred up from the U up to Utah State. She's just doing online school, living with her aunt. And that was always the plan. But then all of a sudden, obviously, this stuff happened. Yes. And so she's kind of just bedridden, like
Lenny,
getting taken care of. She either had a boot or a cast. I can't remember which one. And so she's just recovering.
Did they reattach the toe?
They did. They were able to sew it back together. I'm sure it was like really ugly looking and stuff, but yeah, they were able to do that.
Oh my gosh, okay.
And then Anna was like, you want to see a picture of the toe?
No, so badly I don't.
And I didn't want to, but she showed us and it was nasty. It was so nasty. I'll show it to you later. Okay, actually, maybe you don't want to see it.
I have to see it.
I'll show it to you later. I'll include it in this podcast too on the video part. It was gross. So So basically she's just recovering and stuff. And then all the meanwhile, over the course of the next few weeks, I'm, in this relationship or whatever. And then she'll give me random updates. She'll be like, you'll never guess what happened. Her other kidney started failing, and so they had to take out that one, but she's fine. She doesn't need like another kidney or anything like that, but she's like literally the only kidney she has now is her ex-boyfriend's. And I'm like,
that's so far that is the worst part of the story to me.
Yeah
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, it sucks. So I'm like, geez, this poor girl. And then another update would be like, yeah, like Lenny got lightheaded. Like she stood up too quickly and got lightheaded, and she fell down and hit her head. Like she's doing okay, but she's just in really bad spirits. Like keep her in your prayers and stuff. And so I like sent her a text and was like,
oh, that was nice.
Well, I sent a text to Annabelle to text her because I don't have this girl's number yet or anything.
Yeah.
And I was basically just like, hey, I know that I'm like dating someone else right now and stuff, but like I'm a good friend for you if you want. Like if you ever need anything, just let Annabelle know and then she'll let me know, type of thing.
Yeah,
like
that's sweet,
offers on the table, especially if you need like a priest blessing or something. I know like your spirits are low, but like trust me, it'll get better. Like God's gonna take care of you. Just like, keep recovering.
That's
basically
really sweet. Yeah.
And so she sends Annabelle like another text to me of basically just like, oh, that's so kind, thank you, or whatever. And then let's see, there's like so many details of this story. I hope that I can get them all.
So many layers.
So literally it's like an onion. So basically I just keep getting these little updates, and like things would just keep happening to this poor girl. Like eventually she'd recover enough, and then she was like out and about a little bit. Annabelle would be like, guess what happened to Lenny last night? And I'd be like, literally, if you tell me another bad thing that happened to this poor girl, we need to wrap her in some bubble wrap and just not let her leave.
So she's cursed.
She is. She's got to be, because that next update was her and Brody were driving and they got hit by a drunk driver who rolled them off the road. And luckily she's okay. She just hit her head. She might have a concussion, but Brody did have to get stitches. I think it was in his forehead or something. She's like, it's fine, but just like, it's crazy. And yeah. And I'm just like, what the heck? And so I'm like,
is she dating Brody again or no?
No, but they're just really tight.
Kidney, they're connected forever.
For sure. They're trauma bonded.
For sure. They have matching scars.
Yeah, literally.
That's crazier than matching tattoos.
Literally. So at this point, who knows? Like maybe they would get back together, but they're just, and she doesn't know anyone else other than Annabelle up there and Brody. So like she's probably feeling lonely and stuff. It's understandable.
Totally. Yeah.
So I'm over at my friend Lauren and Cooper's house having dinner with them, newlyweds. Haven't seen them since their wedding, catching up.
Yeah.
I tell them this whole story, and Lauren is in the same sorority as Annabelle, and so they know each other really well. So I get to the end of this story, that right here, at this point in the story, and Lauren is like, that's so crazy, but like, have you ever met this Lenny girl? And I'm like, I mean, no, but granted,
that is crazy.
There was no reason for me to yet because of everything that's happened, and I started dating Riley and things like that. And she's like, interesting. And she left it in a way that was just like, interesting. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? Like, what are you getting at? And she's like, I don't know. I mean, it just seems a little bit sketchy. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I feel like you're getting catfished.
No.
And I'm like, I thought about it for like 5 hard seconds. And I'm like, no, like Annabelle's one of my best friends. There's like no reason for all of this. Like we did do a lot of pranks on each other.
You saw the toe.
I saw the toe. There's so many details in this whole thing.
No.
There's no way. And so she's like, yeah, it just kind of seems like it's something Annabelle would do. And I'm like, I mean, I get one big character trait of Annabelle is she is sketchy, but like in like a funny way. It's like in a mysterious way. She does it on purpose because it makes her a little bit more intriguing. You know, when people like have this funny, like she'd be purposefully like that all the time.
It's like kind of her bit.
Right. So I'm like, no, there's just no way. It doesn't make sense. But it also just lingered in my head after that because I'm like, oh my gosh, what if this is a prank? Because we really do play pranks on each other all the time.
No, but you saw the toe.
But I saw the toe, and I'm like, this is more than a prank at this point. This had been going on at this point for like a month and a half. Like, no. And so
that's funny.
I'm like,
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about like all the recent pranks and stuff because we were in constant prank wars, like us boys and against the girls. And like, for instance, funny. One time I came home and there was hot dogs, just raw hot dogs strung up and taped to my ceiling. There was probably 50 hot dogs taped to my ceiling. It reeked in my room for like 3 days after that.
Gross. Yeah.
So those are the type of pranks that we would do, but like nothing ever this far, you know?
Okay.
So either way though, it's in my head a little bit and I'm like, okay, I need to figure this out. So I text her and I'm like, this whole thing with Lenny, it's not like a prank, right? And she's like, what the heck? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, Lenny's like real and you're not like catfishing me, right? This isn't a prank.
No, because now that you say that it's a prank, in my head, I'm like, there's all these details are nuts.
Right.
Like it just escalates. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so she's like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to throw up. Are you kidding me? Why would this be a prank? And I'm like, and then I felt bad and I'm
For
like,
sure.
oh, of course. Like why? Yeah. And I'm like, that was kind of insensitive maybe, but I'm like, freaking Lauren, like put it in my head, whatever. Okay. It's not, she's not catfishing me. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
well, and now that you feel bad, you can't be like, well, send me a picture. Like,
for sure.
Like prove it. You
for
can't.
sure.
You feel bad, you back off.
Yeah, exactly. And,
okay.
Yeah, so then I'd like still get updates after that. You know, one update would be like, guess who, like she was eventually feeling better enough to be able to go onto campus to go to the testing center. And she'd be like, guess who she ran into on the way to the testing center and asked her on a date. And I was like, I swear if you say who I know you're going to say, there was this guy, I'm not going to say his real name. We're going to say his name's John.
John.
Because I don't want him to come across this and feel bad. I don't want him to feel bad, even though I honestly really despise this person.
Would he know who he is if he heard this?
Maybe.
All right, John.
Maybe, but I hope not, honestly, because I'd feel bad. But me and my roommates literally despise this person. He just is such a hard person. He really means well. He does. There's nothing wrong with him necessarily. He's just one of those people who they just aggravate you.
Yeah.
And I don't get easily aggravated by many people, but
no,
he just was hard and was typical, and like specifically with women. I think that's why I didn't like him so much, is he was just such a douchebag.
Yeah.
It really just was. And so I was like, I swear if you say John. And she's like, yeah, it was John. And I was like, no, you have to warn her.
Yeah,
she
run.
cannot, like, she's got to head for the hills. Like, get out of there quick. And she's like, oh, don't worry. Like, I already told her that.
He's trouble.
He's trouble.
Yeah.
And then another random day, Annabelle, like, had this really bad black eye. Like, someone just decked her in the eye, black eye. And she would not tell us what happened for 2 days. It took me to get it out of her. And I was finally like, I sat her down in the library one day and I was like, Annabelle, you need to tell me who I need to go freaking knock out. Who did this? Like,
are you safe?
Right. Yeah. And I was like, I didn't really think someone did anything to her, but I was like, how do you just have a horrible black eye like that? It was bad.
Especially if she's not telling you what's going on. That's sketchy.
It was sketchy. And so she was finally like, okay, like, this has to stay between us. You know how I am with this. So before I get into the reasoning, for the past year and a half that I've known Annabelle, because we're such good friends with her, me, Swan and Jordo, the boys, and then the roommates. She told us, but not very many other people, but she has a type of cancer. Oh. I want to say I don't know what it's called. Something totally. It's not leukemia, but something with an L, I think. I don't know. Some type of cancer. Okay. And one time she even like had me feel in her armpit there was like some sort of tumor or something going on. I just remember her.
I know nothing about anything, but that feels like lymph. No, lymph nodes here.
Yeah, they're here. Something. Yeah, I don't know. We need to do our research.
I didn't take anatomy.
Neither did I. So basically, time that she'd bring up cancer, I would just back off and I'd be like, sorry. And so, anyways, going into the reasoning, she was like, this needs to stay between us. And I don't want people to know how to have a black eye because it's because of my cancer. So basically, like back in high school, me and Taylor, her sister, they were on a tube behind a boat together and they bonked heads and it like cracked her eye socket a little bit. Not enough to need surgery or anything. It healed on its own. But she said oftentimes when I think either if her cancer's acting up or like the medication she's on, it makes it flare up essentially. And so immediately I'm like, okay, no more questions from me. I'm sorry.
And that's why she has a black eye. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so that was her reasoning behind the black eye.
Okay.
And
wait, this story is so violent.
There's just a lot of components to it, and it really just gets even worse.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how.
Yeah, it will shock you. So, that was that, right? So just weird things like that would be with Annabelle.
Okay.
So, eventually, over time, because again, this is all happening over the course of like a few months, me and Riley's relationship was really great, but at the same time, Annabelle just made me feel so bad about it all the time. She had something against her. She really did. She would make me feel bad for being like 24 and And this girl's like 18 because she just graduated high school a few months ago, honestly, before that. I know it's like a little bit weird, but honestly, at the same time, it's not. Age really is just a number. This girl was so mature. She was great. Like, I didn't purposely go after an 18-year-old. Like, it just happened. And I'm pretty sure she was like almost 19. Anyways, doesn't matter. But she did make me feel weird about that. And so that would get in my head a lot. This one time she was at my intramural flag football game and she was like, yeah, I like overheard, don't tell Riley I told you this, but I overheard her talking about how like she doesn't like us and the other roommates and she thinks that we're bad influences on you and stuff. And like
Annabelle is sabotaging you.
She's really kind of manipulative. Like she really is. But I also trusted her so much for some reason.
Yeah.
Because when I trust people, like when people are my close friends, I love you and I'm so loyal to you and I will do anything for you, right? And I really take what you say to me to heart. And I never want to be one of those people that like, you know, is dating someone who everyone hates. And then not that anyone hated Riley. She was awesome. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like I didn't want to be.
You trust your friends.
For sure.
They can see things you can't.
For sure.
Love's blind, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was for some reason able to confide a lot in Annabelle. Yeah. Which is weird for me because I don't really confide in people very often and stuff. I'm kind of more of like a.
Did she love you?
Maybe.
Like did that cross your mind ever?
It really didn't. Like we really were just such good friends and she was just such a funny person to be around and like there was just so many components of her that were just like made her a fun person to be around.
Yes.
And again, she was really loyal to me too. Like she did a lot of favors for me and stuff. Like she was awesome. So I don't know. That was that. Eventually I ended up breaking up with Riley because it just got in my head a lot. And I just, looking back on it, I don't know why. There was no good reason for me to break up with her, but it was just in my head that, you know, the things that Annabelle was saying and that, you know, I almost felt like I was robbing this girl of like college essentially because I was going to be graduating after that year. Right. What happens if we fall in love? She's supposed to just follow me. I mean, that is very common in Utah, especially.
Happens all the time. Yeah,
whatever. It's really not a big deal. That's great.
Yeah.
But for me, for some reason, it was a big deal and I felt bad and I didn't want to be selfish. Okay. And what I learned from this is like, I need to be more selfish, especially with relationships because like, I ended that relationship because I was trying not to be selfish. What the heck? Anyways, so that was that. She also made me feel bad. Annabelle also made me feel bad because she would constantly bring up these updates from Lenny. And so she'd be like, interesting how, because I would sometimes like ask her about like, oh, how's Lenny doing? And she'd be like,
you've still never met Lenny.
No, because there's no reason to. And also Lenny was pretty clear on like, she didn't want any contact with me really so long as I had a girlfriend because she had been cheated on and she didn't want to, you know, have anything to do with a potential boundaries.
Normal. Great.
So that made sense. And I was like, whatever. And again, fine. I didn't really have any reason or desire to like meet this girl necessarily because I was dating another girl.
Right. Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
But she did make me feel bad for sometimes asking about her. And she'd be like, it's interesting how you're dating someone, but you're asking about another girl. Or like,
you're fine. You just care.
Right. Yeah. But that also made me feel bad too. So all those things.
And she lost a toe. That's crazy. I would want to know.
Yeah. So all those things just kind of made me feel bad. Broke up with Riley. I think I just really needed to clear my head and kind of figure things out for a second. But I think in the back of my head too, I was like, I am interested in this girl. This girl is basically, Anna has made her out to be my it girl. She checks all the boxes. Okay. She's beautiful. Like she's awesome.
Yeah.
I am curious. And so I told her after I broke up with Riley, I was basically like, I am interested, but I can't jump it back into anything anytime soon. That wouldn't be right. Like I need a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I did care so much for Riley. The closest thing at that point in my life to love. Yeah. And I did feel a lot of love for her.
Yeah.
And so it was hard. It wasn't an easy thing. And we saw each other all the time. We had really good
Is that her
same
real name,
friends
Riley?
And stuff. It is. I probably should have changed that, but too many people are gonna know.
No, you're saying the nicest things about her. It's great.
Yeah, she's awesome. Literally can't say anything bad about her. So that happened. After that, I'd get another like just random updates all the time. Like, oh my gosh, Bannon, were you here at this time at this like earlier today? Were you here at this place? And I remember where it was. It was like I was walking home, for instance, and she'd be like, because Lenny told me that she saw you and she like ducked behind a bush because she was on her way to the testing center and she didn't want you to see her because she like didn't have any makeup on and like all these things. And I'm like,
Bennett, okay, I don't know where this story's going.
Yeah, I'll get there.
Okay.
Sorry, there's just like so many details that
it's amazing.
Really have to know for the finale of it all.
No, there's just have been so many twists and turns that I'm like, I don't know where you're leading me.
Yeah. You really,
amazing.
it's one of those things where you're like, I could have never saw that coming. So yeah, she like saw me or whatever. I'm like, okay, weird. Like she should have just said hi or something. I don't know. And then another time I would get a missed FaceTime call from Annabelle. And so I'd call her back and she'd be like, oh, I was just with Lenny like 10 minutes ago. She wanted to like meet you over FaceTime and just like thank you again for being so sweet and stuff. And now that you're not, you know, with Riley anymore,
She wants to say hey.
For sure. And then another, go ahead.
Well, I just like the catfish thing is still in my head because I'm like, oh, okay, for sure not catfish if Lenny has seen you. But then I was like, well, Annabelle could have just been the one who saw you and said, Lenny said this.
For sure.
And then that's sketchy where she was like, you barely missed her.
For sure.
That's sketchy.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like it still is in the back of my mind because, but I just like didn't have much reason to really look further into it because like she's one of my best friends and there's just no reason for it.
Why would she do that?
Right. And so another update would be like, she just loved to put Lenny in my head all the time. She'd be like, so guess what? Lenny's on a date with someone that you know. But she refused to tell me who it was.
John.
And that bothers me. It wasn't John.
Okay.
But it would bother me. It's like when someone gives you half of something and you're like, just tell me the whole thing. Like, don't make me fish it out of you. And she like refused to. And I think it really was just because she wanted me to constantly be thinking about Lenny because she wanted me to always like.
She's a mastermind.
She really is. Like, hell of a wing woman. So anyway, yeah, so I'd be like, okay, so she's dating now, like interesting information, whatever. Eventually I was just like, things just aren't adding up still. Like a couple of more details would happen that I can't really remember off the top of my head, but things would just happen and I'd be like, I need to like really get to the bottom of this because the catfish thing, like you said, it's still in the back of my head. And so I was with Swan this one day and I was just kind of sitting there like thinking about things and I'm like, Swan, do you think Lenny is real? And he was like, honestly, not really.
No.
And I'm like, oh, great. So I'm like, we need to get to the bottom of this.
Oh my gosh.
I had started screenshotting things that she would post about Lenny on her Instagram and Snapchat stories just because like I was kind of just a little bit sketched out. And so there was this one picture that I had screenshotted of Lenny. It was Annabelle taking a picture of Lenny sitting on top of like a skate park pool, like an empty pool at a skate park with a couple of other guys.
Okay.
And Annabelle in her little caption thingy, it was like, no one I'd rather be at the skate park with until 7 a.m. And it was Lenny and the guys.
Okay. So we think Lenny's like a real person.
For sure she is, for sure. Okay. And like, again, like how would she have gotten the pictures of her in the hospital and stuff like?
Oh yeah, I forgot there's those pictures.
Yeah. So like I've seen her a lot on social media.
Wait, yeah.
But she never had tagged her. And in this particular picture, she did tag her along with the other guys. And so me and Swan go through all the usernames. All the other guys, they're real people. They just are private and stuff. We can't like stalk their Instagrams and stuff. But Lenny's username, user not found.
No.
Is what it says when we type it in. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, okay, maybe she just blocked me. But
Lenny would have blocked you?
I don't know. But I'm like, would she have blocked Swan? No. So then I go on other accounts and like ask other people to search for this girl. User not found. User not found. And so I'm like, okay, there's not a coincidence there. And so at that point, I'm like, all right, this is a freaking catfish or something. Like, what is going on? And
how many months has it been?
I think at this point, it's early November or maybe end of October.
Okay. And this all started in the fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I call out Annabelle and I call her and I'm like, Lenny's literally not real. Like, you are freaking catfishing me.
For sure.
And she's like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to tell Lenny about this. Like, she's gonna just laugh.
Digging in.
And she's like, we've been over this band and she like comes up with something. And she's really good at being manipulative and she's really good at making you feel stupid for asking questions.
I'm scared of her.
Yeah, she's good. And so I was just like, I just dropped in. I was like, I'm not convinced, but like, whatever. But it was still just bothering me. So then the next day, I'm with Kylie and Ashley, who are two roommates, two of the Grover girls.
Yeah.
And I'm driving them somewhere. I'm dropping them off somewhere. And on the way, I'm like, could they be in on this? Is this like a Grover girls prank on me? So I'm like, I gotta ask them. So I'm like, okay, do you guys think that Lenny is real? Yes or no? And they look at each other confused and they're like, what? Like, why wouldn't she be real? I'm like, okay, I don't think that they are in on it unless they're really good actresses. And so...
And they know the whole story.
They know the whole story. Yeah, they know. And Annabelle would always, like, we'd be over at their house, for instance, and she'd be like, hey, gotta run. I'll be back in 20 minutes. I gotta take something to Lenny really quick. Or, like, there's been times when I've seen Lenny's name, Lenny Jo Willardson, come up on her phone, like a phone call, and she'd be like, hey, Lenny, and she'd run out really quick. Like, how does that happen? Like, she's got to be a real person.
Oh my gosh, she's so scary.
And so...
That's so good.
Yeah. So
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, you guys, you do think she's real. And they're like, well, there's no reason for her not to be. And I'm like, well, isn't it interesting that your best friend of 4 years, your sorority sister, who you've lived with for years, you've never met this random best friend of hers who lives up here now?
Who conveniently lives with her aunt.
Right. I'm like, it just seems a little off. And they're like, I mean, I guess. And then I'm like, okay, what about Brody? Because I was also like, who else is she lying about and stuff? Because that wasn't adding up. Because I was like, I need to find Brody because then he could tell me that she's not real. So I'm like, what about Brody? Like, I need to find Brody and have a conversation with him.
Wait, can you not just go to Annabelle's Instagram, search Lenny, search Brody?
I did.
No one's popping up.
And so...
Shifty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what about Brody? Like, have you guys ever met Brody? And Ashley was like, I mean, one time at a party, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I met him. And I'm like, are you pretty sure? Or did Annabelle just point him out to you and was like, oh yeah, it's my cousin Brody.
Okay, but if this is a prank and she's lying to everybody.
Right. It's not just me.
That's insane.
Yeah. So they were like, I mean, I guess, yeah, I haven't met him. And I'm like, okay. So I drop him off. Later that day, I'm with Meg, the other roommate. So there's four of them. There's Annabelle, Meg, Ashley, Kylie. So I'd already talked to Ashley and Kylie. So now I'm with Meg. And I'm like, Meg, this has been on my mind, like just eating me alive inside. Do you think that this Lenny girl is real or no? And she was like, oh my gosh, Bannon, I have been thinking this for weeks. And I'm like, finally, like, I'm not the only one.
Like, I'm not crazy.
Yeah, because Swan helped me out when I had like been finding usernames or whatever with him, but he didn't really care that much. He was not invested in it. But Meg was, and she's like, I've been screenshotting things. And I'm like, thank you.
Wait, screenshotting things like what?
On social media that she would see. Because
like,
she was
this
noticing...
is weird. There's not a real person.
Yeah, and she noticed that Meg was with a different sorority sister one time, and she was like, do you see this? And the other sister couldn't see it. So like things that we were seeing on social media, other people weren't seeing.
What?
Yeah. On Snapchat and Instagram. Like other people weren't seeing. So she was either like blocking literally everyone else or because it wasn't a close friend story. We didn't have that back then. Yeah, it's just
a public story.
Yeah. Like, so she was going through some trouble doing all this stuff, right? So then me and Meg turn off our locations because we share our locations with all of our friends, right? And so Annabelle has our locations.
Yeah.
And so we turn off our locations, go to my house, play detective. Within 5 minutes, I kid you not, 5 minutes, we get a text from Annabelle being like, where are you guys? What are you doing? Why is your location off?
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, this girl is crazy. She's
I'm so scared of her.
She is just like watching us like a hawk. And she would always get weird when me and Meg would hang out together. Me and Meg were just like really good friends. Like there was no romance there whatsoever. It was just like, we were tight friends. And
man, I think she's in love with you.
It would explain a lot. So me and Meg played detective. Meg requests to follow those guys in the tagged picture because they were all real, right?
Smart. Okay.
And so she requests to follow them so she could kind of like stalk through their profiles.
So smart.
We also noticed that they all are following one of our mutual friends who is Annabelle's real cousin who we have met named Connor. He lives in Arizona.
Yeah.
And so I text Connor and I'm like, hey, do you know a girl named Lenny who's supposedly like best friends with Annabelle?
Yeah.
I also at that same time text Taylor, Annabelle's sister, who I'm close with, and I'm pretty close with her parents as well at this point. Like met them, a bunch of times. Annabelle invited me to go to Lake Powell with them that following summer. Mm-hmm. Like I'd hung out with Taylor a few times, been to their dorm and things like that. So text her and I'm like, hey, do you know this Lenny girl that is like really good friends with your sister? Apparently. And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay, sketch, weird. But at this point also I already know.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, so do you have a cousin named Brody? No. Brody's not real either.
No.
Which you want to know that's when I was like, it kind of just rained down on me. This is a serious situation because not only was this whole story and like these people fake and stuff, but go back to Brody's brother that got in the car crash the year prior, was in a coma. He ended up passing away, is what she told us. And she left their apartment that day that he supposedly had his funeral, left in all black.
So she's a pathological liar.
Yeah. So she went she pretended to go to a funeral.
Why?
Dressed in all black. And then the roommates, they had told me this after I broke the news to them and everything. When she came back from the quote unquote funeral, the fake funeral, they took her up to the mountains, bought her some flowers and stuff, took her up to the mountain to watch the sunset because supposedly he like loved sunsets, and they cried on the mountainside watching the sunset together.
They are, first of all, such good friends. Girls are the best friends. That's so cute of them. That's insane.
Yeah. So that's when I was like, okay, no, like she's actually insane because this is just way too far. Like she is lying to not only me, but so many other people about crazy stuff.
Yeah. This isn't a prank that she's really dedicated to. This is like something is wrong. Like yeah.
And so then Connor texts me back and he's like, no, I'm not familiar with that friend. And then I texted him a picture and I'm like, do you know this person? I also texted John the picture of her and I'm like, hey, have you ever seen this girl? And he texts me back right away and he's like, oh, she's way hot. Never seen her. Is she single? I'm like, of course that would be your response. So obviously that didn't happen either.
She just said that to get a rise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The car crash happened. She said it happened on October 4th is when she told us. It was the night before. So
okay.
October 4th, we researched. If someone ran you off the side of the road, a drunk driver, there would be a police report of it.
Yes.
B, like there would be some sort of news report of it.
Yeah,
especially in Logan. Like not that much stuff happens up there, you know? That didn't happen. Let's see, where did all the other details? Oh, the toe that she had showed us. We did a Google search of just like what the toe came off from rope swing or something like that. Scroll back 4 pages. 4th page. There was the picture of the toe.
She couldn't go back more than 4 pages?
I guess not. And what? Yeah, just like all these different things. Oh, and then the guy accepted the request to Meg on social media. She stalks through his profile. That same picture of them at the skate park, he had posted in early September, and Annabelle had posted that on her story like October 14th or something. So like obviously that was way later. So like she didn't even know. It was just a
random girl.
It was like so these guys and this Lenny girl, they're just random people. None of them are following her.
Wait, is there a real person named Lenny? And all the stories are fake, or there's just like a random girl?
So I'll get to that right now, actually. I'll answer that question right now.
Okay, perfect.
So Connor texts me back after I sent him the picture of Lenny. And he's like, oh yeah, I know that girl. Her name's Ashley. She grew up with me in my home ward. You
sent the skate park photo.
I sent the pictures that Annabelle had originally showed me.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, she grew up with me. She like lives in my neighborhood.
Ashley.
Her name's Ashley. He sends me a screenshot of her Instagram. So then I go through her Instagram and I am mind blown. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this, because I was thinking maybe this Lenny girl's like in on it with Annabelle, and like she's just.
Wait, but Bannon, what if you had gone on the group date? Who would have been your date? I'm confused.
I think that she just constantly just made up these lies all the time. Like maybe she would have canceled it if I agreed to it or something, you know? And I think that because I just wouldn't let it go because I was just so invested with it all that she just kept lying and kept lying. Because she had also said the same thing when she had texted me that night of the Greek slip and slide.
Yeah.
She had also texted this kid named Ryan Baker, who was her friend.
Yeah.
And tried to set him up with her too. And she told me that.
She's wickedly brilliant.
Yeah.
This is so spooky.
She told me that once because she wanted to make it a competition, honestly. She's like, yeah, I also texted Ryan Baker to set her up with him because, I don't know, like maybe it can be like a fun little competition. And it bothered me.
She is sick in the head.
And so I texted.
And she knows how to get you. Everything that she did. Oh, she's so scary.
So then that reminded me, and I texted Ryan Baker and I was like, dude, do you remember that Lenny girl lost her toe and stuff? And he's like, oh yeah, I haven't heard anything since like she recovered or whatever. I just kind of dropped it at that. And I was like, okay, well, I think that it was all a prank and she just never told you, but she did it to me too. Can you text Annabelle again and be like, hey, what's the update with her? Like, I'm interested in, will you set me up with her again? So he does that. And she immediately texts him back and is like, oh, so sorry. She moved to Provo. And I'm like, okay,
she's not even keeping her lies consistent. No. She's slipping.
Yeah.
She's slipping.
She is. But she's been a mastermind up until now.
Oh my gosh.
And so then I'm going through the Instagram, right? And I scroll back and this girl, the pictures that Annabelle had originally showed me, this girl's senior pictures in high school. Like when she had graduated high school. That was like what she had showed me as what was her, like, yeah, when I asked her for the picture the first time. And then I scroll up to the top again and her most recent picture was from the Howl. So she was up at Utah State actually at the Howl. It's that big
Halloween party.
Yeah, Halloween party.
Yeah.
And I had seen that picture recently before from someone else who I follow. And so I click on the follow or like who's tagged in the pictures. Both the other girls in the picture were girls that I was their EFY counselor. They were in my EFY group. And so they're friends with this girl. And so I immediately put them in a group text and I'm like, or I guess I just DM'd them together and I was like, okay, I need you guys to FaceTime me as soon as possible. Here's my number. Like, I got a crazy story for you.
You were their church camp counselor.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So what? They call me that night.
Yeah.
And I basically tell them everything up until right now, until the Instagram part.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I'm scrolling through and I see these girls that I recognize tagged in the picture with them. And I'm like, here's where you guys come in. You guys were the ones that were tagged. And they look at each other and they're like, what? Like, who is this? And I'm like, it's your friend Ashley. Ashley's in the background the whole time, like listening to this, but doing homework on the back table. She jumps up, runs over, and all of a sudden I'm talking to the real Lenny.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just shocked. My mouth is on the ground.
You're
and I'm
like, this is weird, but take off your socks and you see your toes.
I'm like, you're the girl who I've been catfished by for 3 months. I'm like, what? My mind was blown. And so then their minds are blown too. And she's like, someone's like using me to catfish someone. Like, this is crazy.
That would be a bad feeling.
I'm like, girl, go on private for real.
Yeah, serious.
So I'm just glad that she wasn't in on it too. But yeah, it was nuts. Small world too, right? I'm like, at least pick someone who I would never have mutual friends with. This girl goes to BYU. Like, she's just down the street.
I'm just like dying to know the motivation.
Yeah.
But Annabelle's, what's going on?
So I end that call. Connor calls me later because they had called him and was like, what's up with your psycho freaking cousin who's catfishing your poor friend? And so he didn't know anything because I didn't tell him anything after he sent me that screenshot. And so he's like, what is going on? Because I heard all these things from them. So I tell him the whole side of it. And he's like, honestly, I'm not that surprised. Like, that would be something Annabelle would do. And I was like, okay, that's great.
What?
And the whole time,
she shown crazy before this?
No.
Like, does she have crazy in her eyes?
Really,
you know
no.
what I mean?
Yeah. Like, now that I look back at it, maybe.
Oh, man.
But she was like, yeah, no. I wouldn't be friends, like as close friends with someone like that, you know, which is the scary part.
No, it is scary.
And this whole time that I'm telling Connor the story, his mom was also listening in on it. So her aunt. And I'm like, you guys, I don't mean to question this, but Brody's fake. Lenny's fake. She's been telling me for the last year and a half that she has cancer. Is that real?
Forgot.
And you know what her aunt said? Her aunt was like, sweetie, she doesn't have cancer. This freaking girl? Are you kidding me? I don't cuss, but I'm about to say a bad word.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I was just like, what the frick? And that the thing is too, is like, it's one thing to fake all this other stuff, but cancer, like you have to be sick in the mind to fake cancer, especially because she knows that my cousin, who I was very close with, I grew up my whole life with, had just passed away from cancer a year prior to that.
No, that is super messed up.
It's just, oh, wow. So that got me pissed off. And so now...
What is that called? Isn't that called Munchausen's disease, where you like pretend to have a sickness?
I don't know.
That is so... Well, I think she's got more
She's
than that.
definitely got a sickness,
so
but not
freaky.
cancer.
Oh my God.
So I... At that point, I'm pissed off and I'm thinking about ways to break it to her. Like, I was thinking about going as far as like printing out the screenshots of the real Lenny's Instagram and like plastering them all over her walls in her room. Like, I was gonna be mean about it. But I had a whole day and before I was able to confront her because she was down in like Provo area doing a girls' weekend thing, and she wasn't going to be back till Saturday night.
Okay.
So all this is on a Friday. And so I basically have like a day to think things through. By then, after it all, I kind of calmed down and I was like, I won't do that. She's my friend. And like, I do have a lot of love for this person.
Yeah.
I'm going to give her a chance to like, she's been caught. I'll give her a chance to fess up. And if she does, I mean, we won't be as close friends by any means anymore because this is creepy and this is weird. But like, at least I'll be able to forgive her and like maybe she'll learn a lesson.
Will you get some level of closure
For
from
sure.
this whole crazy thing?
Yeah.
Also, I'm a little worried. How'd she get a black eye? That kind of scares me.
To this day, I don't know. Yeah. Probably doing
sad.
something sketchy. So,
Well, I hope she's okay.
yeah. So then fast forward to Saturday night, I'm over at their house. As soon as I walk in, she's doing homework and on the phone with someone. I'm convinced she wasn't actually on the phone. I think she just like kind of knew it was coming. And so I'm getting a haircut by Ashley, the roommate, because she cuts my hair all the time.
Yeah.
So I get my haircut, make it through the whole haircut. She's still like preoccupied. Usually she like bends over backwards for me too. And so finally I'm just like sitting there like, I'm going to wait this out. We're going to have this conversation tonight. And finally she like hangs up and stops her homework or whatever, and then she starts to leave and I'm like, where are you going? And she's like, oh, I need to go over to my uncle's house. I have to like turn his water off or something random. And I'm like,
Great, I'll go with you.
okay. Yeah. I was like, do you need help? And she's like, no, I got it. Yeah, sorry, like gotta go. And I'm like, well, I need to talk to you tonight, like when are you gonna be back? And she's like, I don't know, it might like take a while. And again, usually she'll be like, oh, I'll be back in like 10 minutes, don't worry, or something, or like come with me.
Take a while to turn the water off?
Right.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, I'll just like stick around and wait. So she leaves. I had said something, I don't remember what I said, but I had said something kind of rude to her, I guess, and the other girls knew. So Kylie and Ashley were there and they knew. And
You had said that when?
during the haircut, I had said something like rude, I guess. Probably just because I was annoyed.
Yeah.
But they were just like, what are you like? Don't be mean. And so I said something sarcastic when she left, and they were like, Bannon, you need to like stop being so insensitive towards her. You know how sick she is right now, like in referring to cancer.
Her cancer.
Yeah.
Air quotes.
And I'm like, is she really sick? And
Which
they were like,
if
Bannon.
yeah, you're the.
I know.
If she's actually sick and you question someone's cancer.
For sure.
Yeah.
So they're like, Bannon, why would you say that? And I was like, well, let me just go ahead and tell you this whole story that I need to get off my chest to you right now. So I tell them the whole story. And by the end of it, they're in tears because they're like, who are we living with?
No,
Who is
scary.
our best
That's
friend?
scary.
And then they're starting to realize that Annabelle has told them all sorts of other lies. Like Meg at that point had been like, no, she definitely stole my jewelry. She did this. And they pointed out that one time, so in sororities and fraternities, you have like these big parties and where it's kind of like a prom, honestly, for like your sorority, and you bring a date. Cute. And it's like this whole thing.
Yeah.
And she had lied to them about like this really attractive guy that supposedly was going to come from Canada. And it was like an obvious lie, but she's a little bit she's overweight, and she's like obviously just a little bit insecure about things and stuff. And probably just was more of a like an excuse to not be embarrassed that no one like was able to go with her, or no one wanted to go with her or something like that.
Oh.
But it's gotten from making up like fake dates to dances to insane things like this where she's lying about cancer, she's making up fake people, to like all sorts of people who she loves and cares about and are her best friends. And so they're like crying because they're like, I'm scared of her now, like this is crazy and stuff, and they're realizing all these lies. And then Annabelle texts me and she's like, do you want to do this in my car or upstairs in my room? And I was like, she knows it's coming.
Oh, for sure.
And something like that I failed to mention earlier was sometimes Annabelle is like, have you ever seen Pretty Little Liars? Mm-hmm. She is exactly like A. Somehow she knows all of the information that I have no idea that gets back to her.
Creepy.
Like conversations with people I would have in my room between one other person, and somehow like she would know. I don't know. I would not be surprised if she had some sort of like listening device. This is me just being a little bit paranoid. I'm sure she didn't, but like just
she
weird
bugged your
stuff.
room, maybe.
Yeah, and she had been in my room all the time.
Oh, that's freaky, Bannon.
Yeah. And so anyways, I go out to her car and she was like, hey. And she's like kind of looking at me like that. And I'm like, hey, so I'm just going to go ahead and start with this. I'm going to give you one last option, like one last chance to go ahead and admit to me that Lenny's not real. Like, please swear on our friendship. Like,
Yeah.
is Lenny real? Yes or no? Yes, Bannon, she's real.
No, she does not double down. No.
Triples down.
Way.
And I'm like, swear on our friendship. And she's like, I swear on our friendship. And I'm like,
bro.
I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I'm like, it's okay. Let me just lay it into you. And I was livid. And I pull up the screenshot of me on FaceTime with the real Lenny. And I'm like, explain this. And she was
Shut up.
oh my gosh, like, and then I was just like, explain how you just catfished me for 3 months. And this girl's, she goes to BYU. She's 18 years old. Her name is Ashley. Like all these things. Oh, the other thing, she doesn't have parents serving in Costa Rica as mission presidents. We looked that up. Like that's an easy thing to look up and confirm.
Yeah. Oh,
no
for
Willardson last name as mission president.
No, that's
like,
easy.
Come up with better lies. Anyways,
wow.
So I'm like, explain that, please do. And she's like, I see how you can be confused.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
The audacity. I'm like, confused? Oh,
I'm
confused?
So scared.
Tell me how I'm confused, Annabelle.
For sure.
She's like, that's her doppelganger.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, you were good at lying before. You're not good anymore.
Oh my gosh.
So she's like, yeah, that's her doppelganger. So like, I just sent you that girl's profile and like picture and stuff because like she's a lookalike and Lenny didn't want you to like recognize her somewhere and things. And I'm like, okay, well that defeats the purpose. I mean, if that defeats what you say. If she's such a doppelganger, I would recognize her, or I'd be like, oh my gosh, like, is that Lenny? Because I've never met this girl. Like, I'm probably going to be like, oh yeah, that's her if I see her somewhere. Bull crap. So then I'm like, okay, how about the car crash? It didn't happen. We looked it up. There was no report of it. And she's like, well, like, not every car crash gets reported. I'm like, they sure as hell do if they're
drunk driver.
Run off the road by a drunk driver. And I'm like, okay, how about he I said his real name.
Oh no.
I'm gonna have to edit that out.
Can you bleep it out?
I'm gonna have to edit that out. How about John? I was like, how about John? He didn't know who she was when I sent him a picture of her.
Yeah, but he'd like to date her.
Yeah. And I just pull out all the facts.
For sure. You have receipts.
Right. I'm like, you weren't at the skate park when you said you were on October 14th or whatever. You didn't do this. You didn't do this. I literally had everything. And I was like, what about Ryan Baker? Your story doesn't add up with him. Yeah. Just all the receipts came out.
Who's Ryan?
He's the one where she had told him as well at the very beginning that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, the
competition.
Thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I'm like, explain it all. Like, you can't keep lying, Annabelle. Like, just admit it already. And she's like, well, I have explanations for all these things. Like, and she just, at that point, she was so caught off guard that she didn't have time to think on her feet. And so like, it was obvious. So she came up
with a doppelganger.
Yeah. It was obvious that she was like lying about literally everything. Like, she always had an excuse for everything, but it was just so unbelievable.
Wow. And
then I was like, you know what? Fine. Your dad supposedly gave her a priesthood blessing. Let's call your dad right now and ask him like about this Lenny girl that he gave a priesthood blessing to in the hospital. And she's like, oh, I can't do that. He's sleeping already. I'm like, oh, it's like 10:30, whatever. I'm like, fine, we'll call him tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm like, what about your sister? She doesn't even know your own cousin.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, I didn't even know Brody until a couple of years ago. Like, we're not close with that side of the family at all. Taylor doesn't know him yet. And I'm like, even if that was true.
Taylor doesn't know him yet. She would know of him.
Right. I'm like, even if that was true, you would, if you're as close with him as you say you were, you would probably introduce him to your sister. Like, it just no.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, at this point, the only way to convince me otherwise, and anyone else, because your roommates already know, because I just told them.
Yes.
And they're freaked the frick out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, the only way you're going to convince anyone is if we get on the phone right now with Lenny, the real Lenny, and we FaceTime her, and I can see that she actually is this doppelganger that you're saying that she is.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can't. She's on a date right now. And I'm like, it's in much of
I don't care.
Yeah, I was like, it's an emergency enough. Like, you call her until she answers, or we'll wait here until she's done with her date. She's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, fine, we'll just call her tomorrow after we call your dad, knowing that that wasn't going to happen because Anna was just not going to. And then finally I was like, you know what, Annabelle, I don't want to have to question this, but I already talked to Connor and your aunt. Like, do you actually have cancer?
Oh my gosh.
And I kid you not, her eyes went black. Like the pupil in her, it was like demon status.
Wait,
I actually got scared. All my hairs in my body went up. This girl, it was just black eyes. And
like her pupils dilated?
Yes, like there was no white in her eyes at all, or color at all, and she freaked out at me like I've never seen her freak out. She was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, you do not ever like." Why do I feel paranoid? I'm like looking behind me. You know what? Yeah, she could literally. She probably is looking through the window right now. Man. She was like, don't ever talk to my family ever again. Like, those are my people, not your people. Like, I can't believe you'd question that. Do you want me to have cancer? And I was like, no, of course I don't. But can you blame me after all of this? All the lies. And she's like, do you want me to like go to the hospital right now and like pull out my records? And I'm like, honestly, yeah, let's go right now. Totally. She's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, of course you're not, because there's no record of you having cancer. And she just kept freaking out about everything. She's like, you can't blame this whole situation with Riley on me and like this and this. And she just like, just so much. And I have a little bit of a recording of it because I forgot. This is my one mistake, is I meant to have recorded the whole conversation, but I forgot until halfway through the conversation. And I was like, dang it, I need this. And it was after this part where she like kind of yelled at me and freaked out and stuff. And so I kind of pulled out my phone and I like put the recording thing on, but she could probably see it in the reflection of the window. And so then she started to calm down after I started recording. So I really didn't get anything like very good, but I have some recording of it. Whoa. But yeah, it was just crazy. And it got to the point where I was like, there's nothing productive that's going to come out of this. She's never going to own up to it. She's a pathological liar. She's sick in the head. For sure. Yeah. At this point, like, it's just not worth it anymore. And like, I just got to leave. And also I was scared. Oh yeah. I'm like, this girl's going to kill me because I know her big dirty secret and she's going to want it not to get out. And so she's going to literally kill me. So I left and I went and told Swan and Jordo everything. And they were kind of like, wow, that's crazy. And then they didn't really care. And I was like, why are you not more invested in this? This is nuts. Yeah. And then Meg. And then
did she just have to go back up to her roommates who all think and know the truth now?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So Meg was at a concert that night in Salt Lake. So she's like, yeah, I'm going to call you afterwards and like get the big update. And then obviously the other two roommates were at the house. And so the next day, I go over to the house to like see what's going on and stuff. Supposedly we were going to call the dad and, you know, Lenny and things. I knew that wasn't going to happen. Yeah. And Ashley and Kylie said that she came back in after my conversation with her and she told them the same thing, that it was a doppelganger. And they were like, okay, then like show us her social media, like show us any proof at all. And she's like, the real one. I'm just so sick right now. I'm going to go upstairs and like, I just am so mad at Bannon for like involving you in this. It's not involved. You guys are not involved in this. And they're like, actually we are, because you're lying to us too. Yeah. And so she went upstairs and then the next day she disappeared. The next 2 weeks, no word of Annabelle, no sign of her. And so obviously I'm a little concerned. I'm like, maybe like this girl's obviously unhinged. Like, did she drive off a cliff purposefully? Like, is she okay? What the heck happened? Oh. So I text her sister and I'm like, hey, is Annabelle okay? And she's like, yeah. And normally she would be more conversational with me. Like we're friends or whatever, right? Yeah, that's it. I'm like, okay, so she knows something's up, but probably Annabelle just lied to her about something that I did or something. And I'm like, okay, is she okay? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. All right. So I just left it at that. I get this fat text from Annabelle afterwards. It's like pages.
Wait, pause. When you were talking to the sister about, does Annabelle have cancer? And the aunt, it was the aunt who said,
it was the aunt. Doesn't. Yeah.
And the sister was there too?
No, the sister doesn't know. And one time, this is funny, is something I left out. One time, me and Meg and Annabelle were at their house at Grover, and Annabelle was like sick or something. I don't know. Her mom came to pick her up to like take her back home to Holiday for the weekend. And supposedly it was because Annabelle was like so sick. That's what she told me and Meg. Mm-hmm. And so when we were talking to the mom, Meg mentioned like, oh yeah, like I hope she gets better. Like she's just been so sick lately. And immediately Annabelle cut it off and she was like, okay, mom, we gotta go. And like, it just was weird. And me and Meg looked back at that and we were like, no, it was because the mom doesn't know that she's faking cancer. And so she was probably like paranoid that we were going to let that secret out or whatever. So yeah, the sister doesn't know either. And I thought so much about telling the family because I have their numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
But at that point, so I'll lead this next part. So I get a really long text after I talked to Taylor, the sister, and I got this really long text from Anna basically freaking out on me again, being like, I told you last night, like, don't involve my family. Like, you already contacted my sister and my cousin and my aunt and blah, blah, blah. And she just freaked out again. And
This is the paragraphs of text.
And there was a lot of stuff. And I have like screenshots of them and stuff I can show you later. I'll include them on the podcast.
In the links.
But yeah, so at that point I was like, it's like kind of more dangerous for me, if anything, to like contact the family. But it was hard because 50% of me wanted to be like, the family needs to know. If my daughter was unhinged like this, I would want to know.
Oh yeah.
I'd want to get her help and like help her realize like that is not okay. Like she's got some issues.
I mean, she doesn't have cancer, but she's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe they do know, like, I don't know if you can hide that from your family. Like maybe they do know she's like crazy to some extent. I don't know. But 50% of me wanted to do that. But then other 50% of me was like, it's not worth it. I don't need to be involved in this anymore. So I'll just ride it out and whatever. 2 weeks goes by, right? That she, disappears. After that 2 weeks, she comes back, collects all of her stuff from the house, drops out of in-person college and goes online, moves back home. This is her senior year too.
No
she
way.
doesn't admit the lie to anyone. Everyone that knows about it and who is involved with it, she basically just said, peace out, like said goodbye to her friends of 4 years, her best friends of 4 years, her sorority sisters over this lie. And to this day, she doesn't talk to any of them. There's some people from college who she still is in contact with, but weren't involved with the story at all, don't even know the story.
This is really sad.
But yeah, crazy. So fast forward to Thanksgiving, because all this kind of came out early November or the end of October or something.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving break, I left, came back home. No one knows that. So the dorm, or not the dorm, the apartment where I lived, it's like the basement floor. And so I punched out my screen so that I could just hop in and out because it's the basement door. And then I don't have to walk all the way up the stairs and like go all the way around the parking lot and stuff.
So fun.
Way easier to just like go through the window and it was fun to like sneak people in and out and stuff. It was fun. But the only people that knew that I had that little setup was Swan, Jordo, and my roommates and the Grover girls. Luckily I had locked my doors and window at that point and stuff. But when I came back, there was footprints to my window.
No.
And I asked Swan and Jordo, wasn't them. I asked my roommates, wasn't them. Wasn't any of the other Grover girls. Who else would go out of their way to walk? Like, you don't just like, even if someone threw a ball over there or something, like there was just no reason for there to be footprints in the snow.
Oh, yuck, Bannon.
To my window. And it wasn't me because when I left for Thanksgiving break, there was not snow.
Oh, that is so scary.
Yeah. So I don't know if she was trying to go get her listening device that she planted in my room or I don't know if she just was trying to plant something else. I really don't know. But yeah, the only other time I've ever seen Annabelle to this day was I think it was like in May. So fast forward a few months, like 6 months or so, whatever. That following May, one of her old roommates, her name was Savannah. She's a really good friend of mine from college and stuff. Her sister married my cousin. So I go to her wedding and I knew that she would be there because she was one of her bridesmaids. And so I go to this wedding and I see her and it was really awkward. And I could tell there was this tension between other girls and me too, because there was other sorority girls and stuff who obviously didn't know my side of the story, but I think that she must have lied to them about me.
For sure.
And because they were showing some sort of animosity. And I was just like, at that point I was over it. And I tell people that aren't really connected to Annabelle like that, but I want her to be able to have friends that don't think she's crazy and stuff. And so I didn't go out of my way to tell those people the truth, because I was like, honestly, they're not my friends, they're not my people. So she needs a support system, obviously. So I'll leave it at that. They can hate me if they want, but it was weird because there was that tension between some of those people who used to be like decent friends of mine, at least in passing and at Greek events and things like that. And so I knew it would get to her if I acknowledged her. So I went over before I left and I like gave her a little side hug and I was like, how's it going, Annabelle? And she's like, good. I'm like, great. See ya.
Oh, that is so awkward.
And my only regret from all of this is I wish so badly that I had called up the real Lenny, Ashley, to be my date to the wedding. That would have just been the cherry on top.
Oh, that would have been legendary.
And I did think about it, but at the time I was like, no, that would be kind of messed up of me. I was just being too selfless, and I should stop doing that because I'm like,
that's the moral of the story. That would have
been such an epic ending to this story. It would have been
incredible.
But I didn't do that. But yeah, supposedly I got an update on her like a few months ago from someone. Supposedly she's like, actually I don't want to say where she is because I'm already changing her name and stuff, but supposedly she's doing grad school somewhere and across the country, and she's far away from here, but who knows, maybe she's still stalking me to this day. I don't know. Like, she obviously was stalking me hardcore before.
She is peering in through the window for sure.
She probably is. At first, the first few months I was paranoid, and I had major trust issues, and I think this is why it's taken me so long to stop having trust issues, because like, how can I not after an experience like that?
For months of someone lying to you and someone you really care about and really love.
Yeah. And so it was that was a hard time in my life that now I can look back at and be like, well, it's a great story, but during the thick of it, it sucked. It was bad. And here's my conclusion with it all. I think this is my theory, as you mentioned. I think that she probably was in love with me. Yeah. And she made up this fake person who's my perfect it girl. Yeah. And she has multiple personality disorder, and she is Lenny. So I think that she literally is like so obsessed with me, and she created this perfect girl who like she wasn't, but she could become. Like, that's her other personality, is my theory.
What?
Yeah. And I talked to a psychiatrist about it. Yeah. And I just laid it all out there, and they were like, I literally need to pull out my old grad school books because this girl's got a lot of things wrong with her.
She has a lot going on.
Yeah. So that's that. That's my theory.
Wow.
I know that this is gonna get out and published or whatever, right? And I know that there's gonna be some people that it's actually gonna upset, because about a year ago I had posted a picture, maybe a year and a half, I don't know. I'd posted a picture. It said what did it say? It was just some pictures of me up in Idaho with some friends. One of my friends, Annabelle's, she had the same name, Annabelle. She posted, I posted some of her pictures, and I was like,
wait, is that her real name? Oops, sorry.
No,
it's not. That's a fake name.
Yeah, it's a fake name. Okay. So I just used, they're both fake names.
Got it. Okay.
So this other girl who's my really good friend who has the same name, I said like pictures by Annabelle. Yeah. In parentheses, not the Annabelle from the story. And that pissed some people off.
Because they
that are like really good friends with her, because they defend her.
Because they probably don't know the real story.
They do.
Oh, really?
Which is interesting. But I mean, I'm okay with it. Again, I want her to have a good support system, and I hope that she's doing well. I hope that she's not crazy anymore.
Wow.
But it was interesting because in sacrament meeting in church, one of the girls was right in front of me like that morning that I had posted it, and she kept getting me like looks the whole time.
Oh yeah, the side eye.
And she brought me outside, and she's like, we need to talk. And
whoa.
Like, yeah. And she didn't know the extent of the story. She knew a little bit of it.
Did you fill her in?
So I filled her in on some of it, but I was like, you know what, like, to compromise, I'll delete the caption, whatever. Yeah. But like, I'm not sorry for that. There was no animosity towards Annabelle at all with that. It was just like a funny inside joke to anyone that knows.
That knows the story.
Annabelle would never see that because she's blocked me already. Like, there, you know, so
that
it was
really
because her whole thing was like, oh, like, that's like, you're not being the bigger person, you're being a bully and all these things. And I'm like, honestly, even if I was intentionally trying to be a bully towards her, she deserves it after everything.
She lied.
Yeah. So.
Oh, she lied about having cancer.
Yeah. So I hope that maybe at least with this podcast, even if people are pissed about it, I don't think there will be very many people, maybe literally 2 people who I got nasty texts from after that picture was posted. Maybe like they'll be able to.
Were they saying just leave her alone, or what were they saying?
Yeah, they were basically like, you're being a bully and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, do you actually know everything that happened? But I wanted to tell this story because, again, like I mentioned earlier, I tell it so often, and it's a huge part of my life that I'm over now and stuff, but it's just like, it's crazy. And what I want to get from this too is like, you could be the best friends with someone, and they could be faking who they are. Like, you really don't know. There's crazy stories about marriages and, you know, psychotic people out there. So just like, I think it's so important to kind of have this, there's a spirit of discernment, I feel like, an energy that people give off. And looking back, I could see that Annabelle had a weird energy about her.
Whoa.
So I hope that people are careful. Be careful out there with who you trust. Don't let people manipulate you. See the signs, see the red flags, because there was a lot. I I was just ignorant to it all, and I was way too trusting.
Well, so Bannon, this is the kickoff for your whole podcast. So what are the next episodes?
The next episodes, I know this is going to kind of be hard to beat, huh?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
So all of my episodes are going to be stories about people, whether they're crazy stories like this or they're inspiring stories.
Cool.
Like, for instance, I hope to feature my sister who has alopecia areata, which is where you're basically bald. Some people are fully bald. She just has bald spots on her head and stuff. She's really open about it. And I want to feature her and talk about that experience and help spread awareness of like what that is and what that means and like how she's been able to deal with it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some people who I know who have had like infertility issues and had miracles happen. And
cool.
So like the combination of like entertaining, funny stories, crazy stories, inspiring stories, educational, just all the above things that deserve a platform that I think are worthwhile, worth your listen to wherever you're headed, whether it's work in the morning or a road trip home or whatever.
I love it.
But I do have a couple of other people who have insane stories just like this who I'm excited to also feature. But yeah, that's where I'm going to go from here.
No, that's nuts. I'm glad you're safe.
Thanks. For now,
crazy.
If something crazy happens to me, it might be her coming back from...
The perfect revenge would be if she cut off your big toe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually wanted to, and I still might, I want to write a book about all of this.
Yeah.
Or like make it a movie or something. I don't know. But basically it would be this whole entire story that I just told you that it's all real. But the night of telling her, I go home and Meg calls me because she's at this actually did happen. Meg calls me. She's at the concert. Or she's done with the concert in Salt Lake. And she's like, hey, give me the update. This actually really did happen. So I gave her the whole update and everything.
Yeah.
And end the phone call. I realized I didn't eat that night because I was so flustered with it all. Yeah. So I go upstairs to make a bagel really quick. It's like 4 a.m. or something. It's like 2 a.m. I don't know. And this is the part where it would be like the crazy end of my book. So this part isn't real. So basically in the book, I go make my bagel. Anna sneaks down. She sneaks down. 'Cause we never locked our front door in college. We really didn't.
I never did.
Yeah. In Utah, like we're just way too trusting.
And you want your friends coming over all the time.
Right. Yeah. And I lived with 10 other guys.
Yeah.
So like it just wasn't going to happen. So she sneaks down into my room, goes in my closet. I finish eating my bagel. I go down there and then lock my door. And then I get in bed. I hear something come out of the closet. I like am checking my phone as you do before you like kind of go back to sleep or whatever. Check your notifications real quick. And because I hear something come out of the closet, I direct it towards that way. And realize that like she's coming at me with a knife. No. And I like duck really quick. I get out of bed and she like hits the bed. I go through, there's like a bathroom that connects to my roommate Connor's room.
Okay.
I run through there, lock the door behind me, wake up Connor really quick. Connor, like Annabelle's here. Cause I had told my roommates all that happened. Cause I was like, we need to start locking our door. Cause there's a crazy person on the roads. I tell Connor and his throat is slit already. No. She slit his throat. And then I run. Swan was my neighbor. He lived in the house right next to me. So I jump out, like break the window, jump out, run to Swan's house. Swan's dead too.
No.
Sprint down 2 blocks to Grover to try to like tell the girls. Because at this point, she's going after everyone she knows. House. The whole place goes up in flames.
No. Oh my gosh.
This is a true part of the story. She has a bag of my hair.
No, Bannon.
Because when I got my hair cut there one time from Ashley, she swept it all up and then she put it in a bag and she'd play this weird messed up game with me where she'd supposedly gave it to someone and then she'd give me clues each day, like a riddle, to find out who had my bag of hair.
Bannon, I hate to victim shame, but how did you not know?
I don't know. It's kind of embarrassing. Yeah.
No, you just trust people and you love them.
I found out who that supposed
crazy though
person
was. Lenny.
That had the hair. It was Swan. And he's like, yeah, she never gave me the bag of hair. So she still has my hair. So in the book, she would frame me by putting my hair because it has my DNA in it and stuff. And I need to look through the science of like how, if that would actually be like a realistic ending and stuff. But yeah, that's my conclusion to the book that I think I'm going to write with this whole story.
And she goes to prison. And then the news article is crazy man tries to kill girl with cancer.
Yeah. No, so in the book, she would get away, but so Meg was her last one, and I call Meg and I'm like, hey, she's trying to kill everyone that knows, like, stay safe. And then, so long story short, like, fast forwards, the conclusion is like 5 years, 10 years down the road or whatever, me and Meg get married. Which actually in real life, Meg and Swan ended up getting married.
They did?
Isn't that crazy?
That's
so fun.
fun.
And like, they're an awesome couple, so happy for them. But anyways, in the book, we would get married or whatever, have a kid, and then the final, like, end of it all would be the kid is going through like old pictures of us and stuff, and then Annabelle happens to be in the background of one, or like with us in one of them, and she's like, oh my gosh, that's my friend. And like, so she obviously recognizes her, and she's like a little 5-year-old or something, and then it just gives you the chills of like,
that gave me chills.
and then she'll be like, yeah, she comes and visits me sometimes at the window. You know, something creepy like that. It would probably be more Hallmark level, honestly. I probably need to come up with something that's like better written, but that's what I got so far.
Wait, that's really funny.
And I have Annabelle to honestly thank for just writing the whole story for me, so.
Wow.
Who knows? Maybe I'll be a best-selling author soon.
Fantastic. I can't
have her to thank for it.
Thanks, Annabelle.
Yeah.
Whoa, man, that's nuts.
Yeah. So, glad that I was able to.
I'm glad you're safe.
Tell you that. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for telling a good story.
Yeah.
Good story from my friend Bannon.
Yes. So that's the conclusion of our podcast today. My friend Annabelle, my very ex friend Annabelle, my psychotic, multiple personality disorder, lying, crazy person Annabelle. The story of Lenny Joe Willardson, featuring my friend forever who's not crazy, Nat Curtis. So thank you, Nat. Appreciate your time.
Love you, Bannon. Yeah.
Awesome.
Dude, that's wacky.